Welcome, everybody. Hey, here we are again, the world famous Carousel Room, downtown Wamego, Kansas. One of the most fabulous happening cities in the entire world. Okay. Tonight with me on this podcast that nobody knows where it's going or where it's going to end is a man who's been known as the monk from Mongolia. He's been known as the international playboy. He's been known as G.I. fucking Joe, okay? He's done it all. He's done them all. He's been everywhere. And hopefully he's going to be bringing a lot of interesting information to us about his life. Eli Henderson, best known as best friend of Patrick Ryan Shuck.
Yeah, hopefully interesting. Hopefully.
With
your assistance.
I will lead you in the path of wonderment tonight.
Nice.
So tell us about yourself, Eli, because nobody out there knows you, man. Where are you from?
Where I'm from? I am originally from Southern Alabama, a small town called Dothan, about 15 minutes from the Florida state line. And I left there when I was about 19 or 20 years old, moved a little north of that.
Are you of relation with Forrest Gump or Bubba?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, he's my younger brother.
Okay, very good. Okay.
I age well. I mean, I think I look old, but if you consider how old Forrest was, serving in Vietnam and whatnot, I look pretty good for my age.
I agree. I'm with you. You moved north before you were rudely interrupted?
Actually, I moved all over before I moved north. So, like many of us here in this room and in the United States of America, joined the military, and the rest is history, as they say.
So, what would you say? What would you say your younger years were like?
My younger years were not as good as they could have been. A lot of things that were within my my ability to control, and a lot of things that weren't. Moved around a lot, changed schools a lot. Wasn't in a very wealthy family, and a lot of lessons from the life of hard knocks. Made a lot of mistakes, as most youngins do, and learned from them, thankfully.
You have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 3 brothers. Yep.
What are they doing today?
So I have one. I'll start with my youngest. My youngest brother, I think, just relocated to Atlanta from Miami. He's into bodybuilding. Rather large young man, at about 6'5", probably 220. My brother, that's youngest, right below me, older than him. He lives in Birmingham as well. He was in the Army for a stint. He was a Cav Scout. And my older brother, he is living in San Diego, and he was in the Marine Corps.
Nice. So he likes San Diego, huh?
Yeah, somebody has to.
Yeah. Well, San Diego's, it's just how much money does it take to live there? But other than that, the weather's pretty good.
He's got a pretty decent job at, I believe it's University of San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah.
So everybody in your family, whether or not how hard you struggled or what you went through as kids, everybody in your family pretty much worked their way towards something and is, yeah?
Yeah. Our parents divorced in 87, so I was 7 years old. Things got kind of rough after that. My older brother that joined the Marines, he stayed with my father. And at the time, I had my one younger brother that lives in Birmingham now. And, we moved around a lot and changed schools, My mother worked as a waitress and a seamstress to, put a roof over our heads. Not always in the most ideal situation, but we kept on and powered through it, and ultimately, it helped shape who we are. We learned a lot from it. Hard work is one thing.
Somewhere in there, you met Patrick Ryan Shuck.
Man, one of the biggest mistakes in my life.
But you don't know it at the time, so it just seems like
I'll give you a quick snapshot of that. And we had yet again changed where we were staying at, and changed schools. And I was going to a school within the town of Rehoboth, and there was a gas station across the street from the school that all the hoodlums would go and hang out at after school let out. Or if you were if you stayed at school throughout the entire school day, like most of us didn't, but you cross the street and there was a gas station. And I remember seeing this scrawny little punk white kid walk up with a cane, and I instantly didn't like him. I'm like, who is this kid?
So he's the same size then as he is now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Maybe a little bit bigger back then.
Back then, he's lost a weight because of the running.
This scrawny little, maybe gangster, wankster, whatever you want to call him, walking around with a cane. I'm like, I guess, you got to give him props, from my perspective at that moment. At least he has the confidence to walk around with a cane.
With a cane, yeah.
At the time, I think I was 14. And so he 14 or 15, depending on what month it was, right? It turned out, you give him a pass on the cane. He had been in a serious motorcycle accident and was walking with it not because he was OG, but because he was injured.
Well, he wanted to be OG, but he was also injured.
Yeah. His mentality said, I learned this off of MTV, but the scars and everything was, I got hit.
I suck at riding motorcycles.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so that was the beginning of a long, fruitful relationship. We made a lot of poor mistakes together. With a lot of other individuals that were there for these very poor mistakes as well. Luckily, him and I, grew past those very immature, poor lack of decisions that we made and became the men that we are today. So I'm probably one of the very few that didn't die or end up in jail or what have you. So. Yeah.
Well, at least not for a long time. He didn't wind up in jail.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
a long time.
Short stint here or there,
depending on what you consider a long time.
Right.
6
exactly.
months, 12 months.
He wasn't a lifer or anything like that.
No. So, but had a lot of good times with. I still call him Ryan. Can't call him Patrick. I know everybody.
Yeah, I don't know who Ryan is.
Amigo calls him Patrick, but So, yep.
So, how old were you when you joined the military?
I had just turned 22.
Yeah, what'd you do between high school and then?
Oh, a lot of jobs. So between high school and joining the military, I don't know, how long is this? Do we have?
Plenty of time.
Everything from landscaping.
Alex went 3.5 hours. Don't worry about it.
I don't. My bladder isn't that big.
Neither was his.
Landscaping when I was, 17, forklift operator. I made signs for like Burger King and Bank of America. I assembled the M-Class Mercedes at Mercedes-Benz plant there for a while. I was a manager of a restaurant.
So that's like almost 5 years. During that 5 years, did you just have this, you were just looking for this way to make a living or trying to find whatever it was?
Yeah, the best decision I made up until that point in my life was separating myself from the negative influences. As a lot of teenagers get wrapped up, not a lot, but some teenagers get wrapped up in the wrong crowds and the wrong things. And I thought, I had a good opportunity to relocate from my hometown and for a job, and I did. It wasn't necessarily to get away from anything, but it ended up being that I did get away from a lot of things that were impacting my life in a negative fashion. So, moved away, not necessarily for any lifelong career, but ended up having a few good opportunities come my way, and I took them. And at one point, I was, manager of a shoe store in the mall.
God, you were like Al Bundy,
Al
weren't
Bundy,
you?
except I was like 20 years old, 19,
You were like
20 years old.
crushing it, weren't you?
Yeah. It was actually for Journeys. So, and it was, back in the day, it was Journeys was kind of new. So,
I think that's where you got part of your reputation.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, could be.
I would open up the shoe store in the morning, and I would close the restaurant that was in the same mall
Wow.
at night.
Wow.
So I would just change uniforms in the back of the
Like
the store.
16, 18 hours a day then.
I had nothing else going on, you know.
yeah.
And then there was even one point where
Except for those 40-year-old women that came in with those high-heeled shoes, right?
not so much the shoes, but the restaurant.
Oh, the restaurant was the place.
The restaurant was
Okay.
the place where a lot of teams of women would come in and and make propositions to you. But I was a young, shy individual at the time. So, but yeah, I mean,
Shyness, that was at one point your middle name, right?
it was. Yeah,
Eli
it still is
Shy.
to this day. You know? Yeah.
I've noticed that.
I really don't start talking unless I have a camera in front of my face.
Right, exactly. It's not interesting, is it? So I got a question about you moved away for a job opportunity, and you didn't do it to get away from, the bad influences or the negativity. But it turns out that when you moved away, that was like your real opportunity to get away from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm just saying, coming from a small town, as fabulous as downtown Wamego is, and the Carousel Room is a happening place with a live audience tonight, like packed here in the live audience tonight. But most people never leave.
Yeah.
And they just stay in the same group and in the same dead-end jobs, and they never move on and they never leave. So they never get an opportunity like that, I think moving takes a lot of balls.
Yeah. And I can
From small towns. I think it's easier from people from big towns.
Yeah. Especially if you had a family that you grew up with that
Right.
moved. And I could completely understand why people never leave and why people continue to work. What some people can consider dead-end jobs, but at the end of the day, it's whatever makes you happy. And for myself and my family, starting, my older brother had already joined the Marine Corps, and I was next in line.
Was that a positive influence for you? Did that give you like like he has something now that, especially after he passed? And
I mean, I can't really say that it was. I wasn't affected by it much. He wasn't growing up in the same house
because
that
he
I was.
went with your dad.
Yeah. And but we have a long bloodline of military men in our family, and both of my grandfathers were served in the military.
Where would that be around? Because it's hard for me to track. I think we're the same age, but we're not. You're a couple years older. Couple years younger than me.
Let's see. So my father's father, I want to say, and he passed away when I was 2 or 3. I want to say that he was only in the military during the Second World War. He served in Europe and out in Asia.
Really? Yeah. He caught at the very end of it.
Yeah, and it had a pretty huge effect on him personally. And so there's that. I really don't recall any stories from him.
A lot of those guys
photographs
didn't.
But my mother's father, he was a lifer, and he lied about his age at 16 to join during the Second World War, and then he ended up staying in, and he served during Korea.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably got Korea at least, and Vietnam, huh? Wow.
And unfortunately, he when I was 17, he passed away from leukemia from Agent Orange. So, but I do recall stories of his travels and the fun things that he enjoyed.
Sure.
And I would say that probably out of any influence that I had, it probably came from him.
Good.
Yeah.
Tell me about your enlistment. Like how did that work? Did you just stumble by the Army recruiter someday, or what? How'd you wind up, man?
A little
What
bit
year?
A little bit of both. Actually, it was 2001.
No.
End of 2001. So it was after 9/11.
Maybe 9/11 had a little
yeah.
something to do with it, huh?
I had always been interested in the military prior to that. I had spoken to recruiters when I was 17 and 18, but never pulled the trigger. And I guess to look back at how immature I was at 17 and 18, I was still looking to the recruiters to influence me, because I believe I spoke with a Marine recruiter because of my older brother, and then I spoke with a Navy recruiter, and I guess they just weren't great recruiters because at the end of the conversation, I just wasn't sold.
I'm surprised at how poor most recruiters really are in the military. They're really not that good.
I mean, I was
some of them are amazing though, but most of them really aren't that good.
Yeah, and they weren't. And I guess being from South Alabama and places like Texas and Kansas, where especially my generation, where industry started to head out overseas. It should have been like shooting fish in a barrel.
Sure.
Because there weren't a lot of, long-term opportunities.
And we were pretty patriotic around that time period.
And so, it ended up being after 9/11, I had already moved away from my hometown. And like everyone else that was alive and that was aware of what was going on around them, it affected me emotionally. And at the time, I was working at the restaurant, and it was had kind of like a sports bar setting, so numerous TVs that were always tuned in to the news following the attacks, and I think that played a huge role and influence over my how much it impacted me.
What do you think your emotion was? Was it anger? Was it patriotism? Was it what was it? What do you think it was?
I feel like it was probably more patriotic. I did have some emotional disconnect. I had never been to New York at the time. I didn't know anyone that lived in New York. So I feel like that while it still, I'm sure, subconsciously influenced me emotionally, I didn't have any personal connection aside from the fact that we're all Americans. And so that's why you asked me now, I think it was probably more of a patriotic lean. Combined with the fact that I had always considered doing it, and I felt like, okay, now it's a good time.
Yeah. I don't think I had any contacts in New York at the time that I knew. I think later on I found out I knew some people that were there and pretty close, but I didn't know. I wasn't in. But I knew a whole bunch of the federal agents that were like responding there within hours of it happening. That was different times. So what did you enlist as?
I enlisted as I was in communications. So at the time, we were still operating on Vietnam-era communication systems called multiple subscriber MSC equipment, I believe. It's been a long time. And then we later on switched over to like SATCOM type stuff.
You were ahead of your class, obviously.
Yeah. Switched over to SATCOM type stuff, working with going from everything wired in and orientating antennas to one another, to fiber optics and dialing in satellites orbiting the Earth and bouncing signals off of equipment such as that.
Where'd you go to training for that?
I went to training at Fort Gore in Augusta, Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you basically really didn't go far from home.
I did not go far.
You didn't go far from home.
It was kind of disappointing as well.
I'm sure.
However,
what interested you about that?
Limited opportunities.
Because of the enlist, because everybody, probably all the infantry slots were taken by the
and I mean, if I had been as wise as I am now in the ways of the military, I could have probably finagled something a little better aligned with what I wanted then. Yeah. Back then, I thought I wanted to be an MP.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I'm glad that didn't work out.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. No, I'm not running down MPs. I got a lot of friends that are MPs, but I'm just saying, wow, that's not like a really hot, fast moving career path unless you want to be a cop somewhere.
No, it's not. But I mean, however, considering the time that it was following 9/11, a lot of jobs were hotter than you would have thought. So military police officers, they did a lot during the.
They did a lot of security, pulled a lot of security, did a lot of stuff for other stuff. Didn't have anything to do with their job.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
I do know that in terms of them securing POWs during the invasion.
They did do some of that. Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of POW camps in Baghdad,
Yeah.
and they were securing those individuals and doing patrols as well. And I would think, because, and I'll get to it here in a second, I was part of the invasion of Iraq, and I believe that with everyone focused on their jobs at the time, the MPs probably did more patrols than a lot of people. Just
I
because,
agree.
What else are they going to do?
Yep, they got thrown into a lot of stuff that really wasn't their job path, but they got thrown in a lot of stuff. Yeah, they did. They did a lot of dismounted patrols, a lot of mounted patrols.
Mm-hmm. So
what did you do then on your first deployment?
During my first deployment, I was lucky enough to join the 3rd Infantry Division. Unlucky in that I got stationed at Fort Stewart, Georgia, right next door to where I grew up, which I also...
Luckily, your accent, fits in, so it's okay. Luckily.
Yeah, absolutely. So being with 3rd ID, 3rd Brigade, 3rd Brigade, not to get too much in detail, 3rd Brigade was always at Fort Benning. And so I was at a different installation, but assigned to a unit that was at Fort Benning. And
oh, really? You were assigned to a unit Benning, but you were at Stewart?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the unit that I had landed at had just returned from a 6-month deployment in Kuwait prior to everything popping off. 3rd Infantry Division used to do 6-month rotations to Kuwait for training purposes. And they had just returned, let's say 30, 45 days prior to me arriving. So our vehicles, equipment was still overseas. It hadn't made it back yet. And I got there.
You're still in the comms.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I got there and learned that we were going to Kuwait. Everyone knew or assumed that we knew why we were going back to Kuwait.
Right.
I mean, you can't tell someone that had just redeployed after a 6-month rotation to Kuwait, oh, you got to go back, and just chalk it up to another training rotation with another brigade had already replaced this brigade. So we knew, we had a good idea what was going on. So we went to Kuwait, hands down my least favorite country on the face of this earth. I mean, it's the armpit of the world. Temperatures regularly 115, 120. Factor in a sandstorm with that, and you're just a walking mud puddle, basically. And we stayed, back then we stayed in what they call cabals, which was tent cities in the middle of the desert. They had no real infrastructure. I remember we built our shower out of plywood when we got there. And a shower, I use that term loosely. It was a wall around your bottled water, that you poured over your head. And we got there in January, and you think...
We haven't had one of those yet, Pat. Really? You're in charge of this? We haven't had a wall around our bottle of water?
And believe it or not, getting in the Middle East, specifically in Kuwait in January, it can be pretty cold. And bathing with bottled water that has been sitting out in the elements all day, every day, it was no walk in the park. It was very cold. And we lived,
Do you ever laugh, though, back at how something, with everything that's going on in the world, like the thing that you bring up first is, I built a shower, I bathed with a bottle of water that sat out in the, just like how random that memory is?
Yeah, I do, yes.
There's some irony in that,
Yeah, and it may not... bringing it up today, it's kind of just a conversation that I've had with many people over the years, but I guess I don't take into consideration the people that haven't experienced that sort of slum living that may say, oh, wow, that kind of sucks. And it did. Washing our laundry in ice chests and buckets and things of that nature. But, it was what we had to do. I guess, had it not been the only option that we had, it may not have been such a less than exotic experience. But it was the norm. We did that, lived in tents that you could not close up from the elements. So you're freezing in the middle of the night. You wake up covered in it next day. It just wasn't fun. And so we stayed at these cabals for January, February, for about 2 months. And then we moved out to AA Hammer assembly area that was on the border of Kuwait and Iraq. And we stayed out there for, I believe, a couple of weeks. And that's when, the shit burning kicked in. You have the burn pits for the latrines and the shower, the plywood boxes that you showered in the month before seemed like a distant memory. It was at this point now a luxury. And we're just sitting around waiting. No official word. As a matter of fact, looking back at it now and having the conversations after the fact, people in America had a better understanding of what was going on outside of our little,
I bet that's true.
Our little network than we did. Mm-hmm. And it's all because of Operation Security. You don't tell the guys on the front line because then you can confirm everything that Fox News is saying.
Yeah.
It's no longer just a theory. And March 19th, 2003, the ground invasion kicked off and we rolled over the
You know what my
border.
birthday is?
March 20th?
19.
Oh, really?
It is.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'll remember that's your birthday.
There you go. Forever now. You'll always, you'll send me a card every year.
Yeah. March 19th, 2003, we crossed the border and it was history from that point on. It was something that I'll never experience again in my life. It was,
How long was that one? Total. That deployment.
Oh, that deployment, it was short in the overall, terms of deployment.
Right.
We redeployed about 7 months later.
Yeah.
The reason being was that 3rd Infantry had already been doing rotations to Kuwait 6 months at a time, and so they considered that just an extension of that rotation. Sure. So get these guys out, and it was also. From what I witnessed and the conversations and scenarios that I experienced, I believe it was also during a time when the U.S. forces tried to transition from wartime to peace time, and I feel that some of it was because they didn't want to take the individuals that had just invaded and fought. An army of Iraq and tried to say, okay, now stop and treat everyone as equal as human beings. And I just feel like it would have been a hard transition mentally for a very large amount of individuals to go from force on force to now we're just doing patrols.
Or state building or whatever you want to call it.
You take the guys that are out on the front lines and I believe it would be kind of hard to tell them, okay, no more shooting at everybody that you think is a threat. Let's try to smooth things out now. But then again, it was a lot to do with the rotations that we were already doing as well.
What do you think from that deployment, other than just like the showers and the bottled water and I'm covered in sand and it sucks? Mm. What's something you took from operationally or that you remember, something operationally from the first deployment?
Well, I had only been shot at once before in my life before then. So.
And that was in a pumpkin patch or a watermelon patch.
Well, that was another mistake that I had made earlier on in my juvenile years. But no, I mean, it went from... you're growing up being a normal person to seeing, rockets fly over your head. Yeah. And burnings and scents. And I mean, every bit of your senses like overload with adrenaline.
So did you numb that out? Did you dig it? Like, did you like the adrenaline? Did you numb out the adrenaline? Like, how did you... I've interviewed some guys, some of them in special operations stuff, and everybody has a different thing. And like Brokos' thing was, I just got pissed off. I just got mad, and when I got mad, I went just like wreaked havoc. Yeah. So what was your thing there? Like, what do you think? Because you're not that old. You probably haven't had all that much training.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
You totally understand comms and SATs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Well, I mean, today the military trains completely different than it did whenever I joined. Right. We were still, invading Normandy at basic training. Buddy set, buddy moving type thing. No real strategy to it. Just kind of check the box type stuff. So yeah, I was lucky in that I wasn't in charge. Private first class Henderson, taking a lot of orders, and I was lucky that I was taking orders and not giving them. Given the first time I stepped foot in a Humvee, I was in Kuwait. So I mean, it was kind of like OJT on the job training for everything. Because again, when I arrived at my unit, all of the equipment, all the vehicles were still
all overseas.
Oconus. Yeah. So I mean, it was. But the way that I took it in is. I could say I was scared a lot. We were very, very fast paced with the missions, and I mean, if anybody knows the history of the invasion, it happened rather rapidly. So much so that sometimes units had to backtrack to
because they went way too far forward.
Yeah, or just passed up
or
obstacles.
They went where they were supposed to go, but other units didn't go far enough. So they had to. Yeah.
So I mean, from being on the ground, I guess it was a little bit sloppy, but at the end of the day, we still won. But it was I just kind of let the adrenaline lead the way with the part about being scared. A lot of times. There were other individuals that were around me that were scared too, and even though I wasn't in charge of anyone, I still felt the need to step up and not be as afraid on the outside as I was on the inside, because I feel that my youth exposed me to a lot of different scenarios that may have made me more familiar with certain situations that some of the individuals I was working with may not have ever been exposed to. And so even though they may have been more, just because you're more senior doesn't mean that you're any more brave or less afraid. Yeah. So, just doing what I could to, be funny or share some of the care packages that I had received with individuals.
The humorous monk.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Do you have anybody that you really, whether you attached to them or not, did you have anybody you really anchored to? Like somebody was just like every time things were going bad, there was just somebody that just didn't care or knew how to.
I could honestly say, I had my team leader was an E5, and his name was last name Farmer. He was a Sergeant E5 at the time, Sergeant Farmer. Very well grounded individual, very intelligent. Had actually had a degree in early education and started his life as an educator in elementary school, and for whatever reason decided to enlist in the military. So I felt like he was very mature, especially someone that I could look up to because he knew his job, and I looked up to because he had all the orders. And at the time, even though we were in communications, we operated on a 5-man team, and we would bounce from location to location with only the 5 of us. We would have 3 vehicles, a support vehicle and 2 of our main functional vehicles, and we would jump from location to location with no support. I mean, the biggest weapon we had was a 249. I had a M16 at the time. So he had a lot of responsibilities put on his shoulder for such a junior person within the ranks, and communications at that. Driving through hostile areas, only the 3 vehicles, no real fire support. I mean, back then, this is before up armored Humvees was a thing. Sure. Our doors were made out of canvas, and they were more of a hazard than protection. We took them off just because it was. Most of the time they were tied shut with 550 cord. Can you imagine trying to get out in a hurry, trying to untie a knot? So we just take the doors off. And I mean, there were people that were putting sandbags in the floorboard to help prevent from explosions underneath and whatnot.
That wasn't super hot early then, though. Like that got really big within a year or two. But yeah, at least that wasn't.
I mean, this was this was April, I'm thinking. So within a month of us being, we stopped going as far north as Baghdad. So we were with units that were securing the Karbala Gap and sorts of things like that. So there was just, I mean, nothing was organized.
Yeah. Do you like what happened to Sergeant Farmer?
Sergeant Farmer, everybody made it home safely. If I'm looking at his career, long story, last I spoke to him, he was a major. So he eventually.
When was that?
About a year ago.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you ever get a chance to tell Sergeant Farmer what maybe he did for Eli at a point in your life that was life-changing?
Not very specific.
Yeah.
I did. We had times where we hung out after we redeployed, and we had still the camaraderie at the time before everybody went their separate ways. We hung out and reminisced and things like that. But no, I don't believe that I ever specifically said, "Hey,
I don't think dudes
I appreciate
do that too much."
Yeah,
I don't think we do that too much.
But I do appreciate how he was a very calm individual.
Yeah.
In a very uncertain scenario that lasted. I mean, going back to your earlier question about how did you make it through, adrenaline a lot. I mean, because we were jumping all the time, we were getting intel that certain amount of Iraqi soldiers were moving our way and going to attack our locations. We jumped more than we, I guess, could had or would had. So yeah, there were some pretty serious situations that I think overall everybody remained pretty calm. But sleep deprivation was one of my biggest challenges at the time. I never had been sleep deprived like I had then, to the point where I had hallucinated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just flat out hallucinated, wide awake.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So you get back from that one? Where'd you go? What'd you do? You stay there?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Got back from that. I was always motivated, hard charging. So get back, and one of the things that stick out is I went to, at the time it was called PLDC, which was the NCO Academy. So as a specialist, went to learn how to be a non-commissioned officer. And then while I was in school to become a non-commissioned officer, found out that I had orders to leave. So this was a little over a year after returning from that deployment, and PCS to Germany.
We 04, 03, 04?
I left for Germany in May 05.
Oh, okay, 05, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Where'd you go to Germany at?
Darmstadt.
I've been to Darmstadt. I haven't. I don't know if I have or not. I don't remember any of the towns in Germany.
Darmstadt is like 20 minutes south of Frankfurt. Beautiful city.
You know what I love about the German language?
What's that?
It's just that, like, it doesn't matter what it is. You just say it angrily, and everybody gets it. Darmstadt. It's just.
Why are you so mad?
Yeah. Why are you so mad? And they're not mad at all. They're just that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I did 3 years in Europe, and it was amazing. At the time, I had just turned 25, had my whole life in front of me, and a lot of good times.
What if you had to say, in your time in Europe, those 3 years, hands down, what's your favorite bar?
O'Reilly's.
Where at?
Frankfurt.
O'Reilly's.
You step off the
Somebody
train.
out there may go, yep, that was my favorite too.
It was a spot. I know that there were a lot of Kasernes or bases in Germany at the time, and people would jump on the train and go to Frankfurt to go to O'Reilly's. It was about a block away from the main train station there in Frankfurt, and that's where the soldiers went, and Germans knew that.
What would be your what would be like a interesting memory or two from your time there, like just an incident or something?
At O'Reilly's or
no,
Germany?
anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, probably yes. O'Reilly's is what
O'Reilly's,
I'm asking, but it could also be with your job or anywhere else too.
O'Reilly's is where I became very comfortable singing karaoke.
No, we didn't want to know that, because now Cody's going to have to put some music on at some point. And you're going to have to like do a lullaby for somebody here in the audience.
Yeah, no, I think I was pretty O'Reilly's famous for karaoke. Yeah, I was a regular every other weekend about.
Okay. So what's your top 5 karaoke songs? Like what can you drill, man? Top 5.
At the time, it was 05, remember, but my number one was Mr. Brightside by the Killers. It was easy. It was easy to be loud and not sound good, but people are too involved in the music that they don't hear just how bad you are.
Okay. That's a good one.
My second was another crowd pleaser, and I was all about the crowd.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Was Wonderwall by Oasis. Yeah. And that knocked it out of the park. I mean, we were O'Reilly's famous by the time we were done singing those songs. And it was such a great melting pot within Europe. You would meet someone different every weekend. I mean, aside from the GIs that normally showed up there, the crowd was from all over Spain, Russia, other various places within Europe. Yeah, it was great. I mean, really.
Is Russia really within Europe?
Russia? No, it's not.
Aren't they like Russia? I thought they had their own thing going on. They're just Russia. I didn't know.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of students, a lot of people traveling. So it was fun. But outside of O'Reilly's, I've always been interested for obvious reasons that we mentioned earlier in the Second World War. And so visiting places that were
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that was insane.
Yeah.
Belgium, the Black Forest, the battle. Holy crap.
I mean,
there's just no. I mean, we watch movies, but when you're standing there, it's like not a movie. Like people freaking did that.
And
stuff
it was very close to home. The concerns that the U.S. military were occupying in Europe were Nazi bases back in the Second World War. There were underground shooting ranges on the concern that I was on. The tunnels that led from one concern meaning military base in that town to another.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good right now. My bladder's a little full, but I tried to get it all out before we started. So I'm slow rolling this.
Here we go. We're on the Alex. We're about at the Alex point right now.
I gotta pee.
Yeah, no, I got to agree with you. Like, there is, if people haven't been there and they don't have a connection and they don't have if you haven't seen some of those battlefields and some of those cemeteries and some of those, now I haven't seen any of the prisoner of war camps, but I had a cousin, an uncle in a prisoner of war camp. Yeah, if you haven't seen that stuff, it's not like when we grow up watching it on TV.
Yeah.
It's way more somber than that.
Yeah.
When I was in Europe, doesn't have anything to do with yours because this podcast's about me. It's all about me. When I was in Europe, like in Holland, I'm not going to say we were treated bad. Germany, they didn't like us. Now we're talking 70s.
Yeah.
70s military was not what, the military is today. But the Belgian, they freaking loved Americans. Like it didn't matter what you did in Belgium. They like.
Yeah.
I think they said 80% of virile aged men died in World War II in Belgium. Like they were either really old men or really young kids is all that was left. Basically, it killed everybody else. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like we don't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had always been again, going back to my younger days, changing schools a lot, I had to read The Diary of a Young Girl multiple times because just whatever schedule the school was on that I had attended. So The Diary of Anne Frank. And it kind of, it got to me.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like they talk about unprecedented times now. No, how many days was she locked in an attic to save this? It's crazy.
Yeah. And so as a youngster reading something that was that Thank you. That serious, it kind of had it played a part.
Yeah.
And so I did seek out, the first place that I went that was relevant to anything to do with the Holocaust was Dachau, and that's outside of Munich.
Yeah, that's one that I've always wanted to go to. The books that I read as a kid focused far more on Dachau than they did Auschwitz. Yeah, because Dachau that's where that one doctor worked out of a lot. And I mean, it was just a
and the US,
horrible place.
The U.S. liberated that camp.
Yeah, and that might be part of the other because
Yeah.
the Russians liberated the other.
But I eventually, later on, with the cane walking negative influence, Ryan.
Yeah.
Him and I later on, much later part of the story, ended up getting to go to Auschwitz and Birkenau, and that was
Birkenau was another one that I read a lot of books on. Yeah.
Yeah, and those were the things that I really sought out when I was in Germany. Sure, Paris and Brussels and Amsterdam; those were all kind of check the box things. But I did. And
there may have been some ladies somewhere. Mixed in there.
Yeah. Maybe one.
Maybe one. Okay.
And when we went to Amsterdam, I got to visit the Frank hideout.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't when I was there. I should have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that when I was there.
Yeah, but it was good times. My second deployment
I spent
was
too much time down the red light district to go to Frank.
I can honestly say that whenever I went to Amsterdam, I completely forgot about the red light district.
Well, I completely forgot about everything else except McDonald's.
Yeah. My second deployment was when I was in Iraq as well. I mean, Germany.
Yeah.
So that's my second deployment. And that was probably my most educational deployment because I was at the time a young buck sergeant assigned, unfortunately, and I did fight it very, very much so. I was assigned to be a driver for a sergeant major.
Yeah.
That had, at the time, I think he had about 28 years in.
If he was good sergeant major, it wasn't horrible.
Really great mentor.
Yeah, right.
Luckily, a great mentor because we spent a lot of time together. And that's why I say it was the most educational. But at the same time...
and Sergeant Major Brokos has had more influence on my life than I can say anybody else in the industry that in the games that I played. That dude's had more. Yeah, like there's just something about somebody that makes it there.
Yeah. Sergeant Major Basil Adams. He was from Trinidad. And
wow.
Still had a thick accent after.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in the Army for so many years at this point. And you think, did you not learn how to shake that yet? But very, very wise individual. And I was lucky because
another mentor in the list.
Yeah.
Sergeant Farmer.
Sergeant Major Basil Adams.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, Master Sergeant Steed Martin was a very influential.
See, I'm thinking Basil Adams is a whiskey, and I'm thinking Steve Martin is a comedian.
Yeah, but I mean, lucky enough, and again, as a young buck sergeant, the last thing I wanted to do was not be in charge of soldiers.
Yeah,
and got assigned to this position. Tried to get out of it, wasn't allowed to. So
it turned out to be
the most beneficial time in the service because I had some very caring, well-spoken, educated mentors that took the time to answer Buck Sergeant Henderson's millionth question. Spent a lot of time together in Europe and in the Middle East. So was very fortunate to have their ear and their tongue. Ended up after I fast forwarding a bit, leaving Germany and leaving the close-knit community that you have when you're stationed overseas and the mentors. It didn't serve me all that well when I left because I didn't know what to do with that knowledge, that information. And I went from being surrounded by very mature, not only as an individual, but mature in the military world, a group of people, to going back to a line unit where I was, my voice wasn't that important. So having had access to so much of what went on behind the scenes, and then going back down to a line unit as a section sergeant, the staff sergeant at this time, which, by the way, en route to that assignment was my second MOS. I reclassed to Cavalry Scout.
Oh, Cav Scout.
Yeah, when I left Germany, I reclassed.
Bob Sauerbrunn and Chuck Haggard and Chris Schmidt. God, somebody else from around here. All were Cav Scouts over here at Fort Riley. Yeah.
But I had gotten used and comfortable to operating on such a mature level. Not to say that I was
Why did you
as
reclass?
mature as them. Bored.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I just had done that for a few years and wanted to try something.
Everybody somewhere wants to be ahead of everybody else and doing whatever it is.
It's not easy to reclass in the military. Not to say that the opportunity isn't there, but you're kind of leaving your comrades when you reclass, and it's challenging to start over, especially as a staff sergeant. In a new MOS. And earn the respect of
it's really hard
of your peers.
Yeah.
And so it's I look back now. I don't have my glasses on.
So when you say you look back, you're really not seeing what you're looking back on.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, I don't have my glasses. I'm looking back, but I don't have my glasses.
Looking back, I would be. It would be a lot more. Educational if I had my glasses, but no.
This would be a whole lot better podcast if he had his glasses. That's all. So all we're saying out there, Cody Roach and Roach Media Group.
Professionally within the military, reclassing often is not beneficial.
Right.
Because you are now competing for the next rank with individuals that have been in that job
the whole time.
Yeah,
right.
So my military career could have been more beneficial had I stayed within one job.
So did you think of that, or did you just really want to do something else?
The first time, because that wasn't the only time I reclassed.
Right. Like the first time. The first time. We'll get to the second time in a minute.
I did not have a magic.
No.
Did not have a magic 8-ball, so I didn't realize how big of a challenge it would be. I was just focused on doing something different, something.
Yeah, you just wanted to be something different.
Yeah. And to me, I was loyal to the Army. I had every intention in staying in. And so to me, what does it matter if I'm serving in which MOS?
Because rank wasn't your thing for a little while.
I mean, it wasn't. I mean, everybody wants it, but for me, I wanted the experience.
Yes.
And so
when you landed, where did you land with the Cav Scouts?
Fort Irwin.
Fort Irwin. Oh my God.
I pissed off Branch.
What was the temperature when you got there?
When I got there.
What month?
I think it was March.
So it was in the 90s, at least by March.
Oh man. You and I were touching on it briefly last night or the night before. It was.
Are you saying we've consumed some alcohol between now and then? I just met you today.
Yeah, it may have been somebody else that has a goatee and a kilt.
Right, it could have been somebody else
in Wamego, Kansas.
Yes, because it's fabulous Wamego, Kansas, at the world famous Carousel Room, which is a packed live audience. By the way, I just want to remind everybody.
Yeah, but speaking of Fort Irwin, maybe I'll just do this. Think about that. My fingers, it's not.
I get it.
I got it. So
the host can open your little.
There it goes. There it goes. This is see my trigger finger.
There you go. Fort Irwin. Everybody loves Fort Irwin, except maybe the spouses, and except maybe everybody that's at Fort Irwin. But other than that,
thank you, kind sir. It's getting hot in here. Woo. I think it may be just bringing up Fort Irwin.
No, it's Fort Irwin. All of a sudden, it's 20 degrees hotter in there.
I mean, Fort Irwin.
So what'd you do there?
What I did
because there may be some kids that have to go to Fort Irwin in the near future, and we really shouldn't jade their experience.
What
by
I
it.
did there was a blast.
Yeah.
Doing it at Fort Irwin sucked.
Yeah.
So when I first got there,
But it's NTC. It's where everybody
National
goes.
Training Center.
It is
Yep.
the National Training Center.
right, in preparation for your upcoming deployment.
Yes, your deployment. Yeah.
You go and you get the most realistic training. Personally, from my opinion, the most realistic training before you actually go to combat. There were only 2 platoons of scouts at Fort Irwin. Within 11 ACR, 11 Armored Cavalry Regiment, there are only 2 platoons of Cav scouts. And we were the designated insurgency, at least at the time. I don't know. I think it's back force on force now, but it was insurgency training, terrorist rotations. So, it was awesome. I landed there, and I don't recall the gentleman or exactly what the organization is called. I could look it up later. I was put into a training called Mirror Image. It's where we studied to be terrorists, and it was fun.
Insurgency training.
Yeah, it was fun. It was educational. I know not everyone that I served with at Fort Irwin thought that it was as educational, but they had also been doing the insurgency stuff for a while. Fort Irwin is a black hole.
It's forever. Yeah.
You go there. At this time, 11 ACR had only deployed once, and then they decided it was too much to try to replace the National Training Center, so they just stopped deploying. And so everyone there had been an insurgent for a while within my unit. But we land there and we go to this mirror image training. We line up. They take our civvies from us. They take our cell phones from us. They give us man dresses. They give us head wraps and whatnot. And we shipped out to the middle of the Mojave. And
monk outfits.
Yeah, monk outfits.
Right on.
Yeah, without the beer.
Yeah.
They
didn't give you beer.
Not until we're done.
You know what? Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Fuck those guys.
So the guy that was leading the training, he was head over the Bin Laden department at CIA for a long time throughout the 90s into the early 2000s. And then there was an individual that trained us in tactics. And
you remember his name, or can you say it?
I do not.
It doesn't matter. It's no big deal.
I have it. I can't remember it. And the individual that was responsible for training us on tactics was retired LA SWAT. And we had another individual that was responsible for the cultural side of the Muslim world.
I think that'd be interesting.
It was.
I
very
think I would
interesting.
like to. I think I'd have a little more insight other than just reading books and just having my negative outlook on all of it and reading books and just thinking I'm thinking I'm intelligent about it. No, I'd like somebody that really would do the cultural side.
It was fun. It was. I've always been interested in other cultures. Growing up in South Alabama, I never had the opportunity to experience or be exposed to much of that. So that was something else the military gave me, is the ability.
So you're just saying, like the only thing you know was redneck growing up. Redneck OG. Redneck OG.
Yeah, OG. I was not a redneck.
Redneck OG. There's a difference between OG and redneck OG.
I was kind of an outcast growing up, so the redneck thing didn't fit with me too well. But
the accent set, by the way, just in case nobody has heard that yet, the accent is set.
Well, the more you drink, the more it comes out as well.
That is true. Yeah. You know what? I got a friend. She grew up here. Then she moved to Texas and spent a lot of time in Texas. Then she came back here and she talks Kansas until she gets on the phone and talks to her friends in Texas. And then she just has this drawl. And I'm like, that was from a 10-minute conversation, right?
Yeah.
You just moved back to Texas in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's my wife. My wife is British. But she doesn't sound British unless she's on the phone with her parents.
So this is totally aside. We got to go back to where we were in a minute. But all of a sudden, we've just taken us. We just hit a right turn.
Yeah.
So I did some training with Phil Singleton, and somebody in the class said, "Hey, Phil, so what's it like being English?" And Phil flips his shit, Phil is an old SAS guy. You remember when they hit Princess Gate? When they hit the Iranian consulate?
Yeah.
Phil went through one of those. He was a team leader, went through one of those windows. They shot all those terrorists. So Phil has done some stuff. Phil got a whole bunch of bad diseases somewhere in Malaysia or somewhere like that, and then got medicaled out. But he's like, I'm not English, which I can't even do the accent. He's like, I'm Welsh.
Well,
So are you Welsh? No, I'm British. Okay.
same.
So where's your wife from? Is she English? Is she British? Is she?
They're the same thing, right?
No, not according to Phil. Like, we're going to fight people because of Phil.
I would say she's English.
Okay, that's fair. All right, move on. We're going back to Fort Irwin at some point. This was just a
to shorten that story a little bit. I mean, we stayed in the classroom during the day and studied past terrorist attacks, whether it be the kidnappings in Munich or what have you. And then we would.
That's a question I have because I lived through that. And I watched it on the news, and I watched the Germans botch it. And you know what? You can't point blame. Like we watched the cops that responded to Columbine botch it. They didn't do anything wrong. They did exactly what they're trained to do. I'm pretty sure Munich police did. But that is interesting. Like, did you get any insight to that Munich Olympic incident? Because that was a big thing in my life.
You know, we were studying it from the terrorist perspective.
Yes.
So we, it was so long ago, and I'm not a subject matter expert on that.
It's okay. It's just I find that fascinating because that was they lost, but the Germans didn't win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't win. They killed all those Israelis, and the sniper engagements didn't win. We used to do blanket drills after that as snipers, and I think that incident is fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody that was there because you can't come up with solutions until you've thought of the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those dudes, so as an insurgent, that's what they're good at. They come up with problems that we don't have solutions to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And here's the thing, we're really good at it. As soon as they give it to us and we can figure it out, you'll never win at that again. That's how much better we are than you. They're just better at coming up with another problem, right?
Yeah.
Like the IEDs, the VIEBs, you know what I mean? Yeah, that like they came up with all these problems that we couldn't solve right away.
Yeah.
And we lost a bunch of dudes because of it.
Yeah. No.
So you were in that world trying to figure that out.
And it was very interesting taking that look because, you know, the military is so by the book. So, So this is how we do it. We do not veer to the left or right where, part of the agreement within the organization that was training us and the Department of the Army was that they had no say-so over what they did, how they trained us. And so we studied successful failed terrorist attacks. We prayed to Allah 3 times a day. We ate Middle Eastern. Yeah.
Wow.
We ate Middle Eastern food, and we trained in terrorist tactics. I learned how to do kidnappings, make ransom videos, plant IEDs.
Yes.
Drive-by
how long was
attacks.
this training?
It was only a week, but we
what? You packed all that in a week?
A week, but we lived out there.
I know, but that's
24/7.
Holy shit!
Yeah. But it was very, very educational. Just being able to put yourself in that mindset and then put it to good use after the fact. And
not get warped by it.
Yeah. And as we trained the rotational units that came through the National Training Center, after that we put it to good use. I mean, really good use.
Yeah,
and you're able to see the mistakes that the Blue Forces made and learn from that as a leader. So that when I left the National Training Center after being the terrorist for so long, whether it be an Afghanistan rotation or our Iraq rotation, because they were separate in the way that we operated.
And they were different environments.
I operated a terrorist cell. I had a squad of Cav Scouts that they were assigned to be my bomb maker, my my kidnapper and what have you. And,
Right,
and they
right.
each had their roles, and to operate like that and watch the training forces come through and do things right or do things wrong.
Right.
It was very educational, which, leading into my third and last deployment with 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID, it was a lot of it just kind of had me feeling like I was ahead of the curve.
I'll tell you hands down. And we can argue with people as to how good of a trainer I am or how good my training programs are or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm not competing with anybody. It is what it is. But the reason I am really good at what I do is because I spent close to 20 years being OPFOR. And I stumbled into it in 1997, and I watched SWAT teams do stuff. We always had to lose back then, which was fine. Like, they had to win. It was fine, except I could pick where I could have won. And I always knew that. And when I became team leader, we'd go do raids, and I'd be like, there was no fucking place in this raid they could have won. There was nowhere. We did not give them we screwed the whole thing up, but we didn't give anybody an opening to win.
Yeah.
Because of 20 years of watching people do things. Like, there's no way to learn anything other than being on the other side of the aggression force.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I agree with you. It's insane, the learning factor from that.
It is. And there's no way to ever train to perfection because there's no perfect scenario.
Never.
You never know what to expect.
What happens to your plan on first contact? Blows up.
Yeah.
That's why we work contingencies all day. Like, it's why we don't work primary plans all day. We work contingencies, alternates, contingencies, and emergencies. Right?
And not only whether it be you have just assume that everyone within your organization has perfect muscle memory. They know exactly what to do. Emotions kick in.
Yes.
And while you may have the most successful leader that taught you well, that same individual may be the one that doesn't know how to respond.
I didn't see that very often. I saw that a few times. Like, that, in my experience, that wasn't a huge deal. I did see it. I will tell you, the things that I saw was, as a small unit team, when we made a mistake, somebody fixed it. Somebody filled the gap that somebody made a mistake on. Like, we'd go back and almost throw punches over, hey, bro, you totally dropped the ball on this deal and this and that. And it'd be like, fuck, I totally did, but here's why I did it, because I saw something over here. And did I drop the ball if my buddy filled my gap? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we were really good at that at one. We had we had 12 years here where we were really good at that. A dude could make a decision, and he didn't have to tell anybody else the decision he made. He just made the decision. Everybody else filled after it.
Yeah.
And we could argue over whether the decision was a mistake or not, but we never argued over whether we filled the gap and fixed it or not. And then I just ran out of just experienced guys, and we couldn't do it anymore. It just early we couldn't do it. Late we couldn't do it, but somewhere in the middle, man, we were good. And we were, I'm telling you, we're hick freaking cops up here. You know what I mean? But we were good. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And that was, I enjoyed the time that I had at Fort Irwin while I was there, but it wasn't a life for me. So
How long were you there?
A year.
That's a long time at Irwin.
It is, but I should have been there for at least 2 more.
Yeah.
But I re-enlisted, signed a new contract for a new duty station.
Just because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just.
You're in the middle of the desert. Fort Irwin is not a bastion of luxury.
No. And I was single.
Yeah, and, it's a long drive to another woman.
You're not meeting anybody.
Well, unless you're Jody. If you're Jody, there's some other women.
And then I went to Fort Benning and linked.
Went back home.
went to the brigade that I had previously worked with from Fort Stewart.
Fort Stewart, yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you wind up back in 3rd ID?
I was able to choose my duty station when I re-enlisted, and I chose.
But you said you re-enlisted for 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you could. Yeah. Okay, I'm tracking.
So I had that opportunity. I went back to Benning, and that's
what year is this roughly?
I left and went back to Benning in 2009.
2009?
Yeah. And then deployed my last time with 3-1 Cav out of Fort Benning. Yeah. And that was
was that in 2009 or 10?
I deployed and I knew re-enlisting going to Benning with Third ID,
right.
the basically owners of Iraq, because Third ID had always been in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to deploy again.
Yeah, third and fourth had been there forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it was fun. I was still a squad leader at the time, and we had a mission like none I had ever experienced at that time in my career. We were responsible for Wasat Province, which was South Iraq. I believe it bordered Kuwait. Al-Qut was the name of the town that was outside of our base there. And we were the workhorses of that area. We did everything from quick reaction force to route clearance.
Yeah.
I was the senior NCO that got trained in route clearance. So we went and did part of the sapper course at Fort Leonard Wood.
That sucks.
And learned how to identify and detonate and remove IEDs. So we had the whole route clearance package, which was kind of nerve-wracking.
It was, but by then they were starting to get some technology.
Yeah.
I mean, starting to.
And things were winding down in Iraq as well.
A little, yeah. Uh-huh.
So it was a stressful job, mainly because I was the lead vehicle. And so kind of everybody in my vehicle behind depended on what I did.
Roger that.
And just having to make sure that everything was good to go for everybody within your platoon at the time. Yeah. And then we, like I said, QRF, we operated Aerostat, which is the big blimp that does the surveillance for the bases. And then towards the end of my deployment, I got asked to be told. Voluntold.
Voluntold is the word.
Yeah,
I was voluntold.
To be the squadron commander's gunner, which at the time just meant I was head of his personal security detail. Things started. My regular schedule slowed down whenever I got put in that position, so I wasn't upset at it. It was just, I felt like it was just nonstop. I mean, that was the fastest deployment.
How long was that one?
12 months.
So, but it was
the fastest because I was always engaged. I was always doing something. I never had time to rest.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from route clearance, and we also did FID, foreign internal defense, where we were training the local armies as well. So my days just went from one thing to the other, and I stayed busy. You didn't have enough time to think about personal life or what have you, and I was in the best shape of my life at the time. So
how old were you then?
I was.
You had to be 30s.
I turned 30 when I was over there.
Yeah, 30s. Yeah.
So it was. I mean, it was a blast. I mean, it was stressful, fast paced, but it was fun. Do
you have any names you remember from that one? People that meant something, or people that didn't come home?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it was busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get home from that deployment?
I get home from that deployment and my career took a turn.
All right.
I was assigned to become a United States Army recruiter.
Yeah, there you go. The assholes we were complaining about at the beginning of this story, right?
Exactly.
And now you're one. Gotta feel kind of bad about. I'm sort of sorry about what I said earlier. They're not all assholes, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're not all. Maybe they don't all suck.
And you don't have an option, right? So you're voluntold again to go do something. And at the time, I mean, I don't know why, but it seemed like everyone within my unit was coming down on drill sergeant or recruiter detail. I mean, it was just it was happening to everybody. And luck of the draw, I got recruiter. And it's just because nobody wants to be a recruiter. I mean, not to say nobody. Most
I know
of
a couple guys that like it, but I agree
the
with
majority
you.
of the population doesn't want to be a recruiter. So you can't get out of it. There's just no way. I mean, if you fail the course, they send you back until you pass.
Right.
So, but I got one. You got to create a wish list of places to go, and they out of a list of places they give you. Right. So number from 1 to 10.
That's better. That's better than some of the others.
Number
right?
from 1 to 10. Actually, I think New York was number 1 or number 2. But either way, I got
when you
New York.
say New York, Fort Drum.
No.
Because I'm like, I know. I have some friends.
And I
have some friends when at Fort Drum, they're just like, what the hell did I like? They landed there in December. They're like, literally.
Was that Watertown, New York?
Somebody had to shovel freaking snow for the pregnant wife for the next 6 months.
I've heard that people in Alaska go to Fort Drum for cold weather training.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Right on.
So no, it was New York City. And it wasn't. There was no reason other than I've never lived in New York. I mean, if the Army is going to pay for me to live anywhere, why not New York?
I'd personally be terrified of going to the Northeast.
Yeah.
I want to.
I wasn't looking at it from a strategy.
I think I'd be terrified of it.
If I was thinking about how I could be a successful recruiter in the United States Army, I wouldn't have chose New York.
That's probably true.
So I was choosing
the Midwest. People will sign. They'll sign the bottom line.
I have people. That skirt has gotten shorter.
It has. That skirt. By the way, the world famous carousel room in fabulous downtown Wamego, Kansas, with a packed live audience. That skirt has gotten far shorter.
Yeah.
I don't even know whether this is worth watching or not, but that skirt is shortened up considerably.
So,
when are we bringing the rag for the, the stuck things? Go ahead.
I'd take some whiskey next. It's not. Yeah, might as well. I think we got to be running short on time.
How long are we? What? Oh, we got a ton of time, bro.
Plenty of time.
We haven't even got your marriage yet.
Yeah, we haven't got to the current state of things.
I know.
So,
but we're recruiting.
I'm recruiting. Yeah, I go to New York, and looking back, hands down, the best thing that happened to me while I was in the Army.
Really?
It did.
What would be the one thing you'd point to for that?
Exposure to civilians.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
maybe weren't the same as people you knew in Dothan. Dothan, whatever it was. Maybe not the same.
Close enough. Thank you, sir. I'm glad to see that your butt isn't hanging out this time around.
Oh, thank you.
So getting back to New York, it put you in a very uncomfortable position that you would not have volunteered for. You were forced. If you want to be, lifelong soldier, you're going to do the best you can at everything that you're told to do, whether you want to do it or not. You still want to be the best version of yourself. So I hit the ground running. I mean, just to put it into perspective.
Did you think at this time, though, did you think you were going to retire did you think you were going to do 20?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Because while I was in recruiting, I signed a new contract. Anything past 10 years in the military, the Army at least, I feel like it's probably the same for the other branches. Any contract that you sign past your 10-year mark, you have to go indefinite. Meaning that if you sign a contract at 10 years and 1 day, you're committing yourself to 20 years. So I'm signing another 4-year contract.
Right.
So my time in recruiting, I signed my indefinite contract. So I locked myself in for at least 20 years.
Yeah, you're thinking you're retire with 20. Yeah, right on.
So you want to be successful because this is going to help me get promoted. This is going to help me.
By now, you're starting to think about your career more than just,
So New York, just put it in perspective, if not the very last, the second to last in production every year. So you think of breaking down the areas that belong to a certain recruiting battalion within the United States and overseas, because there's recruiters in Europe and where there are military families or bases.
My son always lists overseas.
Yeah, tax-free if you're in a combat zone.
Because the freaking bonus is tax-free. Yeah, right on. Yeah.
But when I say that, it's one of the most difficult places to recruit.
New York is difficult.
Yeah. In New York City area.
Yeah.
Which includes Long Island and New Jersey.
It surprises me a little bit, but in another way it doesn't.
To me, without going down the rabbit hole, there were so many things that kind of.
What are we drinking tonight? Are we drinking Rabbit Hole whiskey?
Oh yeah, Rabbit Hole.
So
whiskey.
let's go down the rabbit hole.
Well, it was for myself. It was kind of like a full circle, professionally. Well, not professionally, personally. It was kind of like a full circle because at the beginning of the story, talking about enlisting in the military, I was really touched by 9/11. And now I'm right down the road from World Trade.
Right on.
And so now I'm interacting with the people that were directly affected by those attacks. People that had family members in the towers, people that had the Leos that responded, or the fire departments that responded.
That'd be crazy.
And so, but
to me, that'd be crazy.
I used that in my attempt to be a successful recruiter. Telling the story of why I joined the military. And I feel like that New Yorkers were going to appreciate that story more so than anyone else because they...
Did they?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
So...
even though the target recruits that I was interacting with were probably very young whenever that happened.
So I have a friend that's... it's a friend of a friend. But anyway, she was not a recruiter. She was a retention officer.
Yeah.
And
career counselor.
She struggles with what she did retaining people who didn't make it.
Yeah.
Or, like she's just a disaster. Never was in like any heavy combat, but she has mental issues with people who she retained who didn't come home. Like, is recruiting, is there a guilt to recruiting in any way, shape, or form?
To me, there wasn't.
That's fair.
If you're honest, if you do it the way that you would want it.
Because people should know. And she shouldn't have been messed up with it. Like, hey, here's your retention bonus. You know what I mean? And they all took it. And you can go to, what's the frickin', God dang it! It's a swimming pool with like slides and
the water park.
Wolf Creek, Wolf something. I don't know.
Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge, which there's a ton of shit like this.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things here in Fort Riley. You signed on the line. You got to take your family Great Wolf Lodge for free. And then one of the families driving home got in a head-on collision. Everybody died, and she just became this mental like wasteland. And which it wasn't her fault. They died driving home from Wolf Creek Lodge.
Well, I truly believe that you don't talk someone into joining the military that wouldn't have considered it otherwise. I mean, it's just not something, you don't, someone isn't out shopping for a job and you convince them to join the military unless they were already kind of open to it.
Right. No,
it's not like buying a car.
I just wonder.
I need something to get me from point A to point B with four wheels.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have buyer's remorse on every vehicle I ever buy. Like I buy it and I'm like, God, that's exactly what I wanted. Only that's cooler. Fuck. When you drove up with your van.
Oh, my van is.
It's cooler.
Yeah, I love that.
It's cooler.
So that was something that I
experienced New York City.
I got to experience New York City
Yeah.
while still, getting paid to do my job in the Army.
So you said you basically re-enlisted. How did you ever wind up getting out?
We can get to that. We're still in New York.
No, that's the question. That's the question that's the question I just asked. But go ahead, tell me more about New York. I want to hear more about New York. I don't know. I can't read it at all. I can't read. I don't think it's spelled
I don't
right.
have my glasses.
I don't know what it is. Like we have a packed live audience who are asking questions on note cards, but I don't think they're spelling the words right because I have no clue what that meant. Repelling? Was that repelling? All right, sound it out. Rappelling down a building.
Oh, that's something I did when I was in New York.
Yeah.
Even though it took place in New Jersey. We did a fundraiser for American Cancer Society where we rappelled off of a 34-story building.
So you rappelled 350 feet, 360 feet.
High.
400. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because when you rappel off that, you have to pick the weight of the rope up so you can go down, right?
Yeah.
About 300 feet, you have to start picking the rope up.
Yeah.
And then about 200 and something, you start going, oh shit, I got to stop picking the rope up, right?
Yeah, it wasn't fast at all, but it was still high. Yeah. So, I guess the thing I did want to focus on the recruiting was the how it helped me transition out of the Army. Which
I have a question. Why does it matter what you want to focus on? I thought I was the podcast leader here.
Well,
like if you've taken over and all of a sudden you want to do what you want to do, I don't want to.
Well,
go ahead.
Somebody's got to entertain, right?
All right, be entertaining.
So, but one thing that everyone that is in the military experiences is transitioning out of the military. And that
someday they do, don't they? Except the ones that don't come home. Yes.
Yeah. And that was the biggest challenge I've ever had was the transition part.
Oh.
But being
I don't know where we're at in this podcast. We could talk about transitioning for hours.
Yeah.
Because people that haven't transitioned out of something don't understand. Mm-hmm. Don't understand the mental and the physical and the
Yeah, especially if you are not done with your life.
No, that's exact. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're cool and you're done, it's all fine.
Yeah.
If you're not freaking done, it's the day after. It's you don't know what to do or where to go and then all the bad choices come back in again.
Yeah. And
So what year did you transition out?
I transitioned in 2016.
16.
Yeah.
And what that look like for you?
Well, thankfully, because of my time in New York, it was easier. Not saying
so you had something.
I held on.
You had something other than the military that you moved on to.
Being a recruiter forced me to get out of the military mindset because I'm no longer mentoring soldiers. I'm mentoring civilians.
Yeah, civilians.
I'm mentoring for most of the time young adults, high school students, and being the positive influence on someone that's trying to make a very serious decision at a very serious time in their life.
Did you ever bring something? Did you ever bring something from your youth into that positive decision? Did you ever drag up, hey, this is where I came from and this is where I am today? Did you ever bring something or did you just use the military? Did you ever draw from?
No, because I had to adjust to my audience. And one of the reasons why it's so difficult to recruit in New York is because you're either trying to persuade someone to leave one of the most exciting places on the face of the earth to possibly go to Wamego, Kansas.
Why did you move my cup?
Or you are trying to influence someone because within our footprint of responsibility was the Hamptons.
Was it Hamptons?
Hamptons.
Okay.
So you're having to recruit from a pool of qualified candidates that may be driving an Audi to high school.
Wow.
So you don't, you're not going to join the military for financial reasons.
No, right on.
So
you might be long term, but they don't see the long term. Like they don't get the 20.
I mean, if you're joining the military for financial reasons, you're coming from someone with a background similar to myself,
right?
And not someone that has beachfront property.
There you go.
In one of the most expensive cities in America. So you had to be creative, but honest. And again, I go back to the honest thing because you want to be honest. You want to. I felt it was my responsibility to tell the truth, but to still convince you to join the fucking army.
Yes, right on.
Because I had a boss to answer to.
Yeah. So how was getting out? Like you were starting to talk about the transition. How was that?
Well, again, I used what I learned in recruiting to help me transition out.
What do you think that is? Like, what is it? Because so trust me, there's a whole bunch of motherfuckers out here transitioning out of shit that are just melting down.
Well,
they don't know what it is.
If I had to sum it up in a nutshell, I would say.
And when he says nutshell, I know Eli, he meant nutsack, but that's okay.
I have to say adjusting to your surrounding and doing what's necessary to be successful.
Yeah. I wish you had a little better answer than that. We all get it. We just can't get there from here.
Yeah, I think one of the best, again, and I would like to point out some of the positive things I did in the military. One of the best decisions I made in the military was to never choose to live on a military installation.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, because by doing that, I forced myself to be surrounded by people that, not all the time, but you're putting yourself in a position to be around people that aren't in the Army or aren't in the Marines or aren't in the Navy. And so you're forcing yourself to be able to still communicate with people that have a different lifestyle than yourself, that can give you different insight than the guys that you serve with,
That's an interesting point. Where are we at in time? Are we at the advertisement point? So here's what we've got. It's time. Take a little break. We're gonna have a commercial. We're gonna have a commercial break here. Patrick Ryan Shuck's gonna come up. He's gonna introduce himself. He's gonna talk about some of the things that sponsor this and move on. Come on. This is our intermittent feature. No.
All right, so you guys may be wondering why we're sitting here in kilts and robes and stuff like that. It's because the Kansas City Renaissance Festival was canceled this year. And so we decided to have a Renaissance Festival night here at the world famous Carousel Room with Defense Midwest. So that's why you're seeing these guys all dressed up in our fancy kilts and robes and with this would be a Scottish dirk. So I'm trying to not stab myself in the belly button. So that's what these guys are dressed up for. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, everything's shut down. But you know what's still up and running? Defense Midwest. Come out to Defense Midwest for all your training needs. And go out and shoot some shit. Okay? Because if there's one thing that hasn't stopped, it's the sale of bullets. Oh, that was a little bit too high. Was it all chest? Okay. So... And Roach Media Group is here. They're one of the sponsors because they're the ones that's shooting everything here. If you guys have some media needs, whether it's commercial, live podcast, or just photos in general, contact Roach Media Group. Thanks, guys.
That was the worst advertisement I've ever seen. And I didn't see most of it.
That was the best!
He has a knife. God, a knife came out. Hey, anyway, so there are some things that we got to punch up here. If anybody actually watches this. Victos is not like a sponsor of this at all. In fact, they probably don't even endorse this podcast, but I'm just telling you, their gear is pretty good stuff. If you're looking for a suppressor man, blowback sucks. Okay, actually, blowback blows. So OSS suppressors. All right, get top of the line stuff. Armageddon gear, good stuff. Velocity, hook it all up. So my friend has introduced a card that says "Saving Girl from Fire." Yes. What? Yes. Yeah, just ask Eli about it. Oh, Jesus. Oh, well, we got it. We are not even out of the Army yet. Jesus. Okay. So anyway, so we're at our advertisement. I don't know what Pat said about Roach Media Group, but I'm looking around and I'm thinking, you know what? You want middle of the road? This is the place to go, man. Like they are dollars for performance, middle of the road. Jump your ass in and sign up with Roach Media Group. Good stuff. But I will admit the network works good, man. Right on. Yeah. So Cody Roach Media Group, hit him up. I don't know. It's probably online somewhere. Might have some social media somewhere. I don't know what he's got. So my guest, Eli, is almost ready to return to the table. Yeah. So anyway, Lead Faucet Tactical. You want good training? Sign up with Lead Faucet Tactical. You want medium of the road training? Sign up with Defense Midwest. Like that's how it works. Yeah, you want hire an attorney? I don't know. Maybe we can get an attorney to sponsor us someday and pay for some of this stuff. By the way, the last thing I want to say as far as like advertisement, anybody out there wants mentioned on anything, all it takes is a few dollars to Roach Media Group, and you can get mentioned on this. All right. I don't really have anything else. Patrick, anything? No. Okay. All right. Where we're at? New York. You're leaving. You've talked to civilians. This is making it easier. Like we might be into something here because I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like.
How many years have you been in by then?
12, 13.
Because that's a point in time where dudes, like 10, you need to leave. You need to choose to leave. 12, 13, you need to stay.
Yeah.
But you chose not to stay.
Yeah, I mean, I was indefinite. So I had committed to at least 20. And so I left, and once again, because being a recruiter is having a new MOS, more or less. You're training to be something else. You could technically choose to stay in recruiting as your new MOS for the rest of the time that you're in service, if that's what you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But like most people, I chose to leave and ended up at Fort Bragg, because I had went to a selection for psychological operations. And so was when I left.
So I'm guessing you went to selection for PsyOps. So you never got any training for PsyOps? Because I think that would be fascinating stuff.
I was going through language school.
Yeah, linguistics.
So whenever I was in,
were you good at it? Because I'm terrible.
I was on par.
I'm terrible. I bet I'm not even average. I'd like to be, but I'm not.
The language I was chosen for was Tagalog.
Has anybody ever told you you have beautiful eyelashes?
I feel like that. As old as I am,
I don't know. I just think they're amazing. You have beautiful eyelashes. I've never noticed them before.
I appreciate
that. But go ahead. All right, you're in.
So
you're in selection.
So I showed up to Bragg with an injury, and so when I got to Bragg during the time I was in the Q course for PsyOp, I had an MRI and learned that I had bulging discs.
I'm really surprised, to be honest with you, of all the stuff that I know something about. I'm really surprised the Q course to PsyOps is super physical. I don't know why.
Oh, it's not, but being on airborne status.
Oh, yeah. You got to, I get it. But I'm just, this is sort of surprising because.
Surprising as in?
And PsyOps is not exactly the train of thought that I'm going to right now, but Mike Ritland did a podcast with God, I can't think of the guy's name, who did all the advanced interrogation training. He came out of Air Force SEER and did all the advanced interrogation training, and then got really in big trouble with Congress and did all that. But it was one of the most fascinating interviews I ever heard because of, now he was a psychologist, because of what he did with these advanced interrogation with these terrorists. And I get that's not necessarily psyops. I'm just really surprised that, like I thought that would be really like up here. Like they'd just be generating crap up there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think with any job, it really comes down to the individual and how much they dive into it, how much they involve themselves in it. I've been in a variety of positions, civilian, military, where you have the guys they just live it, breathe it, eat it. It's who they are. And then you have people that just go through the motions. So the individual that you're speaking of just may have been somebody that was just dedicated themselves to.
So, and that's something that broke us through out there in his stuff was, hey, there was a lot of guys that collected tabs. They were physically and mentally capable, but they weren't teammates. Yeah. Like they just couldn't be part of the team. So they just collected the tab. They were part of the team long enough. And then they might have been part of 3 teams, and then they, got out and did something else. Yeah. I think that's what you're. Yeah, and that may not be what you're, but I think that's what you're saying.
Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean that you want to be a good doctor.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Right on. So you got to want to do what you're doing.
Yeah, you have to be passionate about it.
Yeah. And so how did that whole selection process go, man?
So, the selection went fine. And I got to, I was going through language and was still having issues with my back. And they said, the doctor said that I needed to have surgery to remove it. I was in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. A lot. You can't sneeze or take a crap without just being in a lot of pain. And so I had to opt for surgery.
Well, you could be if you took the right narcotics, but that's okay.
But then you're not learning Tagalog either.
That's fine, whatever.
I didn't have a choice. Surgery was the only way I saw.
So you got surgery?
So I had
through
surgery.
The VA?
No, through Fort Bragg, the hospital there.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, military surgery.
Yeah. And at that time, the doctor said, "Hey, look, you have a back of." When I was 34, the doctor said, "Hey, you have a back of someone in their 50s, maybe 60s," and I also got diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. Mm-hmm. So said if you keep on, your back's going to look like a question mark. By the time that you're 50. So I really wasn't allotted the opportunity to continue. To keep going.
It was just you had medical out, but
no,
you had to medical out.
Yeah. And had I had been in recruiting and learned this, I could have stayed a recruiter.
Right.
But my MOS, I was a Cav Scout. Mm-hmm. Even though I was going through training, I was still a Cav Scout, and I was on airborne status, and I couldn't jump.
That's your third MOS time, right? Yeah. Okay.
And I couldn't continue jumping.
Yeah, right. So you can't.
And so I was a student. And when you're injured as a student, you become kind of a holdover. You have no place. Really.
Oh yeah. My son got caught in that down at Lapland.
Yeah. And
big time.
You can't continue the training because you don't have the green light from the doctor. Yeah. And you're not going to really, I wasn't going to go back to be a Cav Scout either.
Right.
Because that's just as physically demanding.
It's too much. Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't have an option. My option was to get out. Mm-hmm. And that was the most challenging time of my life.
That's interesting. That's interesting to me, but we're not going to go there right now.
Yeah. I had recently married within a few years. of this. My son was about 1 and 2 during the course of this.
How did you meet your wife?
I met my wife doing volunteer work in Long Island. I had trained to be a crisis intervention counselor.
Wow.
So I was answering a crisis hotline, talking to everyone from suicide to unwanted teen pregnancies to challenges with LGBTQ.
Right on.
And she had recently graduated from Hofstra University in Long Island with a psychology degree. And so she started doing volunteer work to kind of build on that. And that's how we met.
Yeah. So tell me something about bringing your friend Patrick Ryan Shuck into your wedding. Where was that at?
It was at West Point.
Yeah, West Point, which really like fucked me up over a long time because I thought you were like an officer and got married at West Point.
No, I was.
I didn't know. You know
I was
what I mean?
lucky enough to be a recruiter, and that was the closest active duty military installation to New York City. So it was a beautiful wedding. We got married outside over the Hudson River and had a blast.
And it was a great experience for Patrick. Yeah?
I like to think so.
No, I'd like to think
Just
so
the fact
too.
that he got an invitation.
Yes, I know. Just the fact that you remembered him.
Hey, and one cool thing. What's those the boy group?
I don't know.
Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, there's some story for this. I've heard it.
Oh, okay.
It's boring.
All right. Well, it's boring.
It's okay. I think
Joe Jonas.
Joe
okay.
Jonas.
I think Mel remembers more than anybody else.
The dress was the same day.
Okay, whatever. So that was just an aside. Go on, man. You're transition out. You're
Transition out. Yeah, I mean, so I had to leave. And going back to our earlier conversation, I was indefinite. So in my mind,
Right.
I had at least 6 more years before I had to plan on anything. And so it was pretty scary. It was
and you're married.
married
With a kid.
And had no clue what I was going to do or where I was going to go.
Yeah.
And it was
So how'd you find something?
It was the most terrifying thing in my life up to that point. And I had just going back to what I was saying about how educational the recruiting experience with the Army in New York was. I held on to that. That was the closest thing I had to being a civilian in a very long time, in my entire adult life.
Uh-huh.
And so I used what I learned in New York. I used the network that I had grown in New York because, again, I don't think that people should choose to live on a military installation if they have the option. I had a civilian network at this time. It was the closest thing to my separation that I can turn to for help, basically. And I really sold the recruiter part of it.
I
really
sold
it.
you
Yeah.
as a recruiter.
Yeah. And used my network and sold the recruiting part of my military career to help that transition go more smoothly.
Now, what'd you land?
I landed with a firm in Manhattan that does headhunting for mostly aerospace and defense.
So you went from recruiting Army
To recruiting CEOs
to recruiting
for
CEOs
Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, but recruiting's recruiting. Yeah,
It is. It's
and was it like was it the same cell? Was it a little different cell? What would you transition, or what would you say is the difference between, hey, come be a freaking private first class in the Army, come be a 6-figure CEO for aerospace?
to me, it's all about connecting with people.
So you're not selling anything. Like, you don't think you're selling anything. You think you're just putting somebody in the right position for them where they're at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, it doesn't help that the positions that I'm bringing to you are very good.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
I mean,
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt at all. The position's really good.
Yeah.
But you're still really, like, are you really, like, do you believe you're really putting somebody in the position for what? I don't know. I think fate, I don't want to use the word God. I think there's fate, and I think we wind up in the right place in the right time. Like I think you did in your military career.
I agree.
I think, so is that, are you that guy? Are you, like, if we strip that frickin' monk outfit off, do you have angel wing scars on your back from where you put people in the right place at the right time?
No.
But you save people. You save soldiers. You saved your own people, and then you saved people in fires, right? Who the fuck does that?
Somebody that's just in the
I was a firefighter for 20 years. I never saved anybody. You've never been a firefighter, and you've saved people in a fire, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think right place at the right time.
No, I agree with that. I'm just saying, I think there's something beyond being in the right place at the right time, and I don't know what it is.
I don't either. To be truthfully honest, I don't.
What'd you feel? What'd you feel in that structure fire?
I hurt a little bit. I'm an old guy.
The heat hurt a little, or the?
I think it's really hard to explain.
I know it's hard to explain. Otherwise, everybody would understand it.
I mean, I guess just to put it, in context a little bit for the audience, Buck's referring to the time that I helped a young lady get out of a burning house across the street from where I was living at.
And you didn't have to.
No, I didn't.
It's not a requirement.
I was not in good physical shape either. I needed ankle surgery seriously at that point. I stepped out of my house for something to do with work. That was it was close. It was the day before Halloween, I believe. And I looked up and I saw smoke coming out of the house across the street. And the first thing in my mind was, it's a prop. It's this fog machine, because Halloween is tomorrow.
Okay.
You ever been in a situation where
I have.
You don't expect to see what you see?
I totally know what you're saying.
And your mind tries to process it.
I think it's
quickly.
funny that you said what you said, but I totally know what you mean.
I mean, in the millisecond that my eyes saw what I saw, my mind tried to process what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And it tried to tell me what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing that came to my mind.
But denial is the first thing that comes to your mind. It's not a real fire. It's nobody's in danger.
Yeah, I mean, fire did not cross my mind in the first second. And then I looked closer and I saw the smoke was coming from what appeared to be the roof. And I say appeared to be because it was coming from the back side of the roof that I couldn't see. And so I took a couple of steps closer, and then I heard like muffled screaming. And at that point, it clicked. Okay, smoke should not be coming from that position of the roof. And okay, somebody's screaming. I still don't know what's going on, so I can't run because my ankle is shot. And I step up toward the road, and then I notice that someone is on the second floor of this house trying to make someone aware of what's going on. And I limp over to the house, and there's a young girl on the second floor, and she can't get the window open.
You don't have to minimize. Like, I get it. You may be even limping, but I get you're not, because at that point you're not limping anymore. You're like, I
can't run full speed.
I know, but you're not like an invalid at that point anymore.
And I get across the street and I get to the house and I realize that the house is on fire and there's someone on the second floor that can't get out.
Yeah.
I go to the door that's right in front of me. I open it. As soon as I open it, black smoke just billows out. I can't see anything. I take a step back. I yell up, "Is there anyone else in the house?" The young girl says no. So then I focus on the window. I pick something up. I try to break it. I don't hit the window so it doesn't break. It was a big, plaster concrete object on the front porch. And And I'm kind of helpless. I mean, she's on the second floor. I can't go in the house. It's obvious that I can't access the house from the front door. And I look around. I see someone walking down the street. I say, call 911. There's a fire. And I think by me yelling, I attract the attention of neighbors. And at that point, some people run out of the house. They see what's going on. Someone runs over to the yard, and then they go and look for a ladder.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the window is directly above steps. So when we put the ladder up, there's no level ground to put the steps on. And so there's two gentlemen that are helping balance the ladder as I climb up it on these steps. The window is still shut. I get to the top of the ladder, and it's not tall enough. And about the same time, the young girl pushes her hands through the glass, and it breaks the glass.
Wow.
And so I have to kind of jump up and latch my arm over the windowsill and convince her to climb down my back. She's terrified. I would understand. I believe she was probably about 12 years old. And I'm just saying, hey, baby, calm down. It's okay. Just climb down my back. Do the best that you can. And she eventually gets out and climbs down my back. And luckily, no one was hurt. The house was destroyed, but
Is there any way the Eli of 1997, as opposed to the Eli of 2000 and what, 18, 19?
yeah.
Does the Eli of 1997 do that? Because I think he does. I just don't know that the Eli of 1997 believes it.
I think so. I mean, my ability to assess and my ability to react would have been totally different.
Mm-hmm.
But there was still someone that needed help, especially a child. You someone that hasn't really had the opportunity to mess up their own life yet.
Yeah.
So they don't deserve something like that.
Yeah. It's not about that. It just is what it is. But I'm tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, I don't know. We're getting close to the end of the podcast. Like, is there anything you really wanna? Is there anything we missed? Is there anything you really wanna like tell somebody? Our podcasts are about resiliency. They're about being resolute when everything fucking sucks. Being resolute. It's about resiliency through doubts. And just trying to be a better person and doing something. Like, is there anything in your life that you hang your hat on? Maybe it's your kid. Maybe it's that girl. Maybe it's your wife. Maybe it's somebody you recruited. Maybe it's, I don't know, man. Is there anything there? Rings a bell?
I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good opportunities.
Do you think that's true? Or do you think you put yourself in positions to have opportunities?
I mean,
I don't think anybody gives us fucking anything, man.
You're right. You're right. I mean, I've always had a very, very strong work ethic.
You said that earlier. Work ethic.
I'm not competitive. I've never been a competitive person, but if I had to say that I was competitive with anyone, it would have to be myself. I've always wanted to be the best version of myself that I could be. And I think that along the way of me striving to do that has caught the attention of people that had the ability to offer me an opportunity that helped me progress.
I agree. Dan Brokus told me in a podcast here, it was all about work ethic. He's like, yeah, a lot of shit sucked. It was just about work ethic. You know what Dave Lindstrom told me about playing in the NFL? He's like, I should never got recruited in the NFL. It was all about work ethic. It's all about work ethic, and I wound up somewhere. I got recruited to San Diego. He didn't even stick there. Got sent to the Chiefs. You know what I mean? It was all about work ethic. Yeah, and I just think that everybody that comes on this podcast talks about work ethic. I'm just not sure that we're selling it to people that are struggling out there that don't understand. It's okay. It's okay that everything sucked today and everything sucked last week and everything sucked in the last year of your life. Get up fucking tomorrow and go to work, because somebody somewhere is going to see it, and they're going to, my life's been that way. Like I would have never been on the, and this is penny ass shit compared to what you've done and other people have done. I've never been on the Potawatomi County tactical team. Had I quit the first time, they blackballed me. Mm-hmm. What if I quit the second time they blackballed me? What if I quit the third time they blackballed me? And I didn't want to show up the fourth time. It's just my buddy says, well, you get this chance. Show up if you want. And I wasn't going to do it until 10 minutes before. And I'm like, fuck, I'll go show up. You know what I mean? Kids don't get that. I think video games are part of it. We get too much instantaneous gratification. I don't know. I literally don't know. I'm just saying it's showing up that counts, man.
Yeah. No, I agree. And if I had to try to put it into words, I would say, just work your ass off. If nobody ever sees you, you'll eventually create your own way. You'll eventually find a way to take it to the next level, if that is what you're determined to do.
So what did this career take Eli to? Where are you today, man?
I'm in a pretty good spot, better than I ever have. And
Did you ever picture it? When you were a little kid, did you ever picture it?
Not at all. I mean, I don't know what I would have pictured myself. I mean, honestly, I may have not even thought that I'd live to be 40.
Yeah.
If you talk to the young me. But, I mean, I've been given good opportunities, and I like to think that if I died tomorrow...
I don't think you've been given anything. I think you've taken good opportunities.
Yeah, I've made good opportunities possible.
And other people have seen it. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But I do like to think that if I died tomorrow, that I would have led a very successful life.
Yeah, just saving some girl off fire is a pretty successful life, man.
Successful in that I did more than I thought I would ever do.
Right.
Not successful because of what I own or what I possess, but because I accomplished more than I thought that I would ever accomplish.
I've had a lot of conversation with my cousin about this, and we're diametrically opposed philosophically, but we really love each other. Like we don't dislike each other because we don't believe the same things. And I've told her I really enjoy the financial, the things that I can do financially that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not have worked hard and been successful. Like I enjoy, for no other reason, buying my grandpa's house. I don't live there. Mm. I just like owning my grandpa's house. You know what I mean? Like I get pleasure from it. There's nothing that comes from it. There's no, in fact, I had the most deadbeat renters that you've ever seen in my grandpa's house. But other than that, like I just like being able to own my grandpa's house. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. And I'm not going to make excuses for that. You know what I mean? Like, there's just really weird things. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Financially, that I've done that I like. And I can't take my grandpa's house with me to hell. Yeah. I can't take my shit with me. I get it. But there's just something about being successful and just, you know what? You buy something stupid, but if you like it, you enjoy it. Mm. Last question. Well, not the last question. Yes, last question. All right, everybody, my producer and my director say last question. Last question. What's the worst day of your life, Eli?
Well, I think we've already touched on it and covered it. And the worst day of my life, and to me, there isn't a worst day, because I feel that if something is bad enough for you to say that it was the worst day of your life, that it had an effect on you before it happened, and there was a residual effect after it happened. And to me, probably learning that I shouldn't or couldn't continue in the military was the worst day of my life.
That's good stuff. So the next question is easy for you. It's not easy for me. The next question for you is easy because you've become wildly successful. Worst day in your life. I cannot continue with the career that I thought I was going to have. How did you reconcile that and become successful?
At that time of my life, I was focused on everybody that depended on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that if I let that be the end of who I was, that other people would not have the life that I would want them to have.
Because your wife's young and your kid is young. Yeah. That actually means something.
Because
to some people,
I'm not competitive. I've always wanted to be the best version I could of myself.
You're
for
very
myself.
competitive. You're just competitive with you.
But in a scenario like that, it's no longer about me.
What's the future hold for Eli?
The future.
If you have a great van, you have kind of a sexy wife with a fucking drop dead. Kind of a sexy wife.
You live in Wamego.
I know, with
What
a
are your
drop
options?
dead sexy accent.
Yeah.
And you got a kid.
Yeah.
What's the future hold for Eli, man? How old's your kid now?
He is 6.
9? Oh, 6.
He's more intelligent than I am.
Yeah? What do you got, man? What's the future hold for
The future for me is that I will no longer depend on anybody else to make me successful.
Yeah, that's good.
I will break off on my own, and I will take control over my success.
What are you going to sell your kid? Because you're a recruiter and a headhunter, and you sell people shit. What are you going to sell your kid, man?
I'm going...
3 lessons. 3 lessons you're going to... Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, maybe because some are older. 3 things that are going to, I just got to tell my kid.
Learn from mistakes, not just your mistakes, but mistakes of those around you. So that way you benefit from not having to make that mistake. Work hard. Don't ever expect anything for free because nothing is for free. And be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Or the happiest version of yourself you can be. Yeah, is that what you mean?
Best, I think, equates to happiness.
I do too. I agree. I'm with you there. I got one more question, and I told Pat we're not going to go here. I have one more question. We're going to finish on this, and then we're moving on. So, your military stuff, and I want to get into politics. I don't want to get anything, but you know what? You maybe are starting to see some empathy for a different version.
Uh-huh.
I'm not. You are. I want to hear yours.
Empathy for a different. I'm sorry.
The whole society as it is today, the whole Black Lives Matter, the whole, you know what I mean. The whole social change that's occurring in America today. I'm pretty old school. You have a different version. You've risked your life for America, and you have a different version. I just right now is your time to tell yours, man, because it ain't about my version.
I mean, that's a very broad question. I mean, there were a lot of touch and goes there. If
I thought it was very, very pointed, but that's okay. That just means I'm a horrible interviewer.
If I had to pinpoint it, I would say stand up for what you think is right.
Yeah, everybody, right?
What's right for you might not be right for me, but that doesn't mean that I can disagree with you.
But shouldn't we be able to talk about it?
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what we're missing today, don't you think?
Yeah,
Our ability
absolutely.
to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, have the conversation and know that it's just a conversation at when it's all over,
Right
all
on.
said and done.
Right on. You got anything left, man? You've done a lot of shit. You came from wherever you came from. You're where you're at now. You're crushing life. You've been a fucking hero in the military. You've been a hero in civilian life. You saved people from burning buildings. You are raising a kid. You have a international wife. You got just anything left, man?
Oh man, anything left? I have a kick-ass van.
Yes, you do. You do. We should post a picture of his kick-ass van on somewhere on this deal site somewhere.
Kick-ass 81 Chevy sport van.
81. Yes. Yeah, that's it. All right. Hey, podcast for tonight is over. Eli Henderson, American fucking hero. I literally don't care. We can fight. We can argue. We can do whatever we want in the street. The sad thing is I can be wrong and I'm still going to win just because I'm physically fucking bigger, faster, and stronger than whoever wants to argue with me. My point is Eli Henderson is an American hero. He joined the military. He struggled from his early years. He made mistakes. He went to work. He freaking experienced life as a worker. He joined the military for the right reasons. He did whatever he did there. He got in some stuff. He came out. He got out. And one day he couldn't hobble across the street, and he freaking saved a little girl from a fire. We don't meet American heroes very often in our lifetime. And Eli's an American hero who drives a pretty fucking cool van. He should shoot better. He should come to Defense Midwest because Defense Midwest sponsors all this. You should come there and learn to shoot better. But other than that, man,
I'm okay with that. I'm a keyboard warrior these days.
He's a good dude. Like this is what America is. This is why we do this podcast. This podcast isn't about people who have received medals and people that have, stood up in society and been recognized by governors and presidents and shit like that. It's about everyday Americans who live their life every freaking day to try to be better and try to make a difference in the world, whether we agree on it or whether we don't. And that's what tonight's podcast was about. I want to thank Eli. I want to thank Patrick for talking Eli into this. I want to talk about this wild, vast freaking studio audience that showed up to this. I want to thank fabulous downtown Wamego, Kansas for hosting the Carousel Room right here. And I want to thank Roach Media Group because you know what? You want media on the road, brother? Right here it is, man. Roach Media Group. They're the best that ever walked. As long as all you want is media on the road, okay? Like hook them up. You want training? Defense Midwest. You want better training? Lead Faucet Tactical. You want good products? You know what? Hit Victos, hit OSS, hit all that shit up, man. Someday you want it mentioned on here? Hit me up. Pay us a few dollars. We'll talk about you. Right on. Got anything left, bro?
Pour me a drink.
Right on. Thank you, man. All right. That's it. Podcast out.
All right.
Pop smoke.